Hi everyone, Patricia Worby, Alchemy Therapies here. Just another in my ongoing dialogue around mind-body medicine. And as you can hear, I'm still getting through my little challenge. I've had a really nasty cold, but I'm getting through that. What I wanted to talk about today is why physical problems can often have an emotional root. And this was really brought home to me via a friend of mine who suffered a back injury a couple of days ago. Quite unexpectedly, her back went out, but it was a memory almost of a similar time this time last year when she actually broke her back. Luckily, this recent damage is only temporary, and we think it's just some sort of realignment that happened. But on discussion with her, what became really apparent was that it's the same time of year, which is really interesting to me, and also that she had just had a job interview. Now, job interviews and the back are really related, okay, or certainly stresses to do with survival. We tend to use language around that, don't we? We say, I put my back into something. It's about supporting usually a role or making yourself do stuff that you're not necessarily sure about. So there's lack of certainty. And we often see bad backs as a result of situations in the life that are both challenging and also unsupported. Now think about that. The back is the primary, the spine particularly, and the ligaments and muscles that actually attach to the spine are about supporting you upright. They're keeping, the pelvis in alignment and your head in the right position. But it's a very tough thing for the body to have to do because it's actually quite stressful to stand upright and to be functional and moving. So why backs go, it seems to me, from my observation of working with people, the number of years I have, is when somebody feels like they've got to keep going, but they don't feel supported in their life. Now, whether that's through the current situation they're in, the relationship they're in, or the job they're in, maybe the relationships within the work environment are not supportive. But quite often it can also be a memory of another time where they felt just crushed and alone. And so I think for my friend, that was certainly the case. And when we worked on the feelings she was having right now in this moment, loads of emotion about feeling unsupported in the year previous came up. Time of year can be a really big trigger, by the way, for symptoms that your mind body is very tuned into your environment. What I mean by mind body is this connection, the vagus nerve connection between what's going on in your sensory brain, your emotional brain, and the rest of your body, your gut, the internal organs, your arms and legs. They're all in communication all of the time through the nervous system, and particularly the autonomic nervous system. So the vagus nerve is part of the autonomics, and it's a really very attuned part of your system to your life. So triggers can happen through the current life that remind your body of similar situations in the past where you were under threat. The autonomics are very much geared towards aligning you to threat or safety, depending on which arm is involved, the sympathetic or the parasympathetic. I'm not going to get into the technical detail here, but it's really important to know that mind and body are linked, that they communicate with each other and they communicate with your environment. And so often physical symptoms can be as a direct result of what's happening in the life, triggering a traumatic memory of past events. And because that part of your brain, which is reading these signals, is not logical, it's not conscious, it's an unconscious response, it can often just bring out feelings and symptoms from the past because it believes they will be helpful to you. People often get quite sick in this way if they don't resolve some of the past issues. They get more and more disabling symptoms, and because modern medicine has no idea of this mind-body connection, it treats them symptomatically. It just, if you've got a bad back, it will treat the bad back. If you've got poor digestion, it will treat the poor digestion. but it will only do so by symptom suppression. So it won't actually look at any emotional content at all. Now, if this sounds a bit far-fetched, I understand that you probably may not have come across this information before, and certainly I had not understood this up until probably I was in my early 40s, and I started to look into the research, and actually psychoneuroimmunology is the term given to this kind of study of the mind, body, emotions, and how they connect. So actually the science is very strong on this. It's just that it's not been incorporated yet into medicine, although that is changing, luckily. And in the UK, we have, in the devolved governments in Wales and Scotland, an awareness of trauma as well. That is creeping in, but England is still way behind on that one, which is a shame, because trauma is not just major events of your life, although obviously it can be. It's anything that overwhelms your nervous system's capacity to cope. And that can be relational. And it can go as far back as your birth experience. Doesn't have to be recent events, although they may well reflect the beliefs and coping strategies that your body has adopted in this life. So there's so much more to know on this, but just to be aware that when you approach the emotional content of physical pain, you can often release the physical pain. And that's what I did with my friend. You know, we tapped on some of the feelings she was having, the pain in her back, which led us to this feeling of being alone and not certain of what was coming, and released some tears. Her back feels great. This is not explainable in the current medical model. We think only in terms of the physical. But if you imagine your autonomic nervous system is holding down a lot of emotion, it's putting the lid on it, as it were, and preventing you from, it thinks, accessing painful emotion. But of course, what that does is that takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of stress in the system to keep your emotions under wraps. And that can be read by the body as threat, and that's when it locks down and goes into the cell danger response. Energy is curtailed, and muscles use a lot of energy to keep them relaxed, actually, not just to contract them, but to keep them relaxed. And so if there is a perceived threat in your environment, your muscles will go into spasm. That's the origin. It's really well known in holistic circles or alternative or complementary circles, but not so well known in modern medicine, which is a shame, because actually it's the quickest and fastest way to treat many conditions. That's not to say you shouldn't also invest in body work, because I really believe in body work to release things, but it should be in combination with looking at the emotional component as well. Anyway, that's all from me today, and wishing you a good, happy holidays, and talk soon. Okay, bye for now. Check me out, alchemytherapies.co.uk. Thanks, bye.